all things continually lead back to serpents, dragons, fairies, Nephilim, and fallen angels.
In the distance looms a mystical mountain.
As Mike Heiser used to say, if it's in the Bible and it's weird, it's probably important.
At its peak, a great fire burns, concealing the Prometheus lens.
This development of this knowledge that's being talked about within the mystery schools.
An ancient artifact said to reveal the hidden truth within a deliberately darkened world.
There's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
The Smithsonian, they caught wind of a giant skeleton who would send their agents out to get it.
But it takes courage to move forward, to move out of the shadows, out of the unreality that we think of as reality.
We are all on the hero's journey.
Mankind has been in contact with and influenced by extraterrestrials.
Leave the sentient mound of bull feathers out of it.
You know, look at it from a different perspective.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass because we are about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Justin, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Well, today, got another great episode for you guys. It's something that's currently in the news, UFOs, aliens, and I see no other person better to dive into this subject with the man, the myth, the legend himself, L.A. Marzulli, with his newly released documentary series on Roswell. Yeah, and right there they are, folks.
Yeah, there they are.
So, L.A., just take us on a journey. Tell us about the things you've discovered and a little bit about your films.
Well, we have right now we have 8 films in the ongoing UFO series. The last 2 will be released sometime in April. 9 is pretty much done. I mean, it was done before Christmas, and 10 is sort of like a bonus DVD. But you know, we're just we'll kind of see where it goes. So there'll be 10 films in the series. That'll probably put a bow on it. Although, I mean, you just never know. But that's where we are. There's a book that I'm working on also. The Rungs of the Disclosure Ladder. I've got 10 chapters written. I've got about another 6, 7, or 8 to go. So I'm a little over halfway done. And that'll come out sometime late fall, probably right before Christmas, something like that. But, the latest one, and I already showed you the covers to them, the Roswell films. And the reason why we call it exoneration, because we went up to Montana and we interviewed Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow, Linda, plus his best friend, one of his best friends, and then his daughter. And then there's other people that come on the record talking about this. So for your listeners who don't know anything about Roswell, and it's not like this is like some people, yeah, Roswell, isn't that where that spaceship crashed? Well, this is the backstory. It's 1947. Nagasaki and Hiroshima. 2 atom bombs were dropped, one on Hiroshima, one on Nagasaki. The 509th Bombing Group was the bombing group that did this. They are now stationed in Roswell, New Mexico. Okay? The intelligence officer for the highest, I mean, the 509th, I mean, this is it, man. I mean, they dropped the bomb. Those guys did it. Nobody else did it. And the intelligence officer is Jesse Marcel Sr. He's familiar. He's trained in all sorts of radar, what's out there, what the Chi-Coms have, what the Russians have. He knows. He's up to date on everything. And that's why we call the film exoneration. So what happens is a rancher around late June, early July, a rancher by the name of Mac Brazo goes in the town of Roswell, where the 509th Bombing Group is stationed. And Brazel's got some a few pieces of this wreckage. Something crashed on his land. He's leasing this land. It's open range, free cattle. I mean, that's what it is. And so he's out there and he sees this like debris field, and he brings back some of the wreckage. He goes to the sheriff, and the sheriff goes, this isn't a police matter. You need to go to the 509th. So he goes over to the 509th, and again, 1947, probably July 7th into July 8th, somewhere in that window. And Jesse Marcel Sr. accompanies Mac Brazel out to the legendary debris field. And Marcel says on the record, and we show it in the film, Marcel Sr., it's a clip that we found, and we show it in the film. There's no way he could have found it with directions. And I've been there. I've been to the debris field. When I tell you it's out in the middle of nowhere, there are no street signs. I mean, it's free range cattle. There's dirt roads. And then finally, to get to the debris field, you're 4-wheel driving to get there. So Jesse Marcel Sr. goes out with Mac Brazel, and he talks about this debris field as long as 2 football fields. And I've been there. I know what that looks like. Now, all the debris has been picked up, but not all of it. And we'll get into that. So Marcel Sr. picks up some of the debris, puts it in a box, goes home, or goes back to the base. But before he goes to the base, he stops at his house. And I've seen where the house is. The base is here. The house is right on the way in. It's, all these guys lived around the base. I mean, it was an very active base at the time. He's the intelligence officer. He's got a nice house a couple of blocks away from the base. So he goes in, wakes up his son, wakes up his wife, and he's laid all the stuff out on the kitchen table, kitchen floor, and they all look at it. And Marcel Sr. goes, "Take a good look at this, guys, because you may never see anything like this again." I believe this is from a craft from another world. And he takes the wreckage. He goes in. Gemma Ramey is there. Walter G. Haught. There's all these people sitting around a table handling the wreckage and looking at it. And the Roswell Daily Record publishes this. And this is what we believe is the truth. There it is.
Didn't they do like a reprint too right after that, and they changed the story, right? That was the original.
Yeah. This is the truth. This is July 8th. This is what they published. Flying saucer. July 9th. Jim Ramey says, so Ramey empties saucer, and then right here it says, Ramey says excitement not justified. And then there's all these stories about a weather balloon. So Jesse Marcel Sr. is trotted out for a press conference. And it's not what he does. It's not what he was trained to do. And Gemma Ramey just says, well, Mr. Marcel, Major Marcel was confused. This is just a weather balloon, blah, 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 blah. And there's a picture of Jesse Marcel Sr. kind of looking like, are you kidding me? I mean, he's a patsy. He's a fall guy. No doubt about it. So all this is buried. It kind of goes away until Stanton Friedman discovers the Roswell cover-up. And he's the guy and bully for Stanton. He's not with us anymore, but he was a great researcher, a great ufologist. I don't agree with everything that the man says, but I agree with a lot of what he does, and my hat is off to him because it was Stanton Friedman who broke the story. He's the guy that did it, and we always give credit where credit is due on any show that I'm on. It's just something I learned. That's courtesy. That's being above board. That's taking the high road. And we always try to do that. We may fail sometimes, but we always try to do that. So, Stanton Friedman gets 2 thumbs up. I mean, it's major kudos here. So, all this goes away till Stanton Friedman blows it open. And then at this point, Jesse Marcel Sr. comes on the record. We have a clip of him out in the debris field on camera, right? Probably shortly before he passed away. And in that debris field, he's telling It was as big as 2 football fields. Debris was everywhere. There were pieces of metal that we picked up. You couldn't bend it. You couldn't hit it with a sledgehammer. It wouldn't dent. And then it was as thin as a pack of, aluminum foil inside a pack of cigarettes. And, he's from Louisiana, I believe, originally. So he's got a drawl to him. You really got to listen carefully.
My kind of people.
Yeah. He's a stand-up guy. He's not lying. He's not embellishing. He's not, pulling something over on somebody's. He's not doing that. He's a stand-up guy. And at the very end, and we stop the camera and we font it. And his last words are, he's out and Raimi's saying, nothing but a weather balloon, nothing to see here. That's all there is to it. Case closed type of deal. And then he looks right at the camera and says, but we both knew differently. Jim Raimi and Jesse Marcel Sr., they both knew differently. So we have other people that come in. Denise Marcel, Jesse Marcel Jr.'s daughter. I interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr. before he passed away. There's a reenactment of that in the very beginning of the film. We have Jim and Carolyn Rankin, who are end-of-life practitioners, and they interviewed Colonel Hill, who was flown from Dallas-Fort Worth into Roswell. There were alien bodies. One of them was still alive. Hill was OSS. He was an interrogator. He tried to communicate with the being and didn't do it. This was a deathbed confession, basically a month before he died. And he comes on the record, not to me, but to Jim and Carolyn. And so they tell the story. And they're both pastors. I mean, I'm going to believe everything that they're telling me. They're not making anything up. So all this is in the film. Exoneration. Tim Alberino has a spot there. One of Jesse Marcel Jr.'s best friends. He's an anesthesiologist, and Dr. Richard O'Connor, and he's the one that hosted or created the Jesse Marcel Jr. Library. And I was able to speak there. About 20 people. They're all on the other side of the aisle. They all believe that these are aliens from some far off planet. I do not. They are not aliens. They are interdimensional beings. They are fallen angels. They are, the Greys are the demons that are inhabiting an avatar, a meat suit, which enables them to manifest in our dimension. But I digress. But, all that is in the film. And then, of course, in the debris field. And I want to show you something right here. And, if your people don't go and download these films, they're either lazy or broke. Okay, this is the piece of metal,
and nobody's that broke. You can the stuff that he puts out, guys. You can get on a single trip to McDonald's. Nobody is this broke.
That's it. There's a piece of metal that we found in the debris field, and Frank Kimbler had a metal detector. So first of all, Frank was our guide. Chuck Zukowski was with us. Gil Zimmerman. Mr. Peterson was there, and myself, and we're out in the debris field. James Peterson. Why did I say Richard Peterson? Sorry, Jim, if you're listening. So we're all out there together, and we're praying that the Lord would forgive what happened here and cleanse the land, but that He would also show us stuff. All of a sudden, like not even 5 minutes go by, Frank Kimmel's with the metal detector. Hey, guys, I think I got something. This is all on film. 76 years after the crash.
The Go Therefore conference was the first people that got a look at it, weren't we? That was awesome.
Yeah, unbelievable. So the deal is this. At that crash site, they sent out 20, 50, 100 military personnel in Army fatigues. How do we know this? Because Frank Kimbler found 3 aluminum buttons dating from 40 to 50. Fits the timeline perfectly. They went shoulder to shoulder, probably on their hands and knees, picking up the wreckage. But guess what? And we show a picture from Holloman Air Force Base. It's actually a film. And it shows this disc-like object. It's things glowing. It comes in like this. It hits the ground, flies up, comes back down, hits the ground again, and just explodes in a bazillion pieces, just like boom. I think that was smuggled out. I think it's real. I do. And so Frank Kimbler's out there with a metal detector. Sure enough, he picks up on something. So we were running over with the cameras, and Frank's got a little garden spade, and he's going like this and picking up the soil and putting it over there, and then digging another one and putting it over there. And finally, the object is out of the ground, about 6 to 8 inches down. So now here's the metal detector. Frank picks up some dirt, and he goes like this. Okay, it's not beeping. Puts it down over here. Gets another thing of dirt, goes like this. Nope. Puts that down. Third one, it's like beep. Okay, now it's in his hand. So he takes the dirt and he sifts it like this, puts his hand in front of the metal detector. So now he knows it's in this hand. Beep. He knows it's in this hand. Opens his hand up, goes like this. He goes, oh my gosh, holds up the piece of metal, and I'll show you again because it's flipping off the hook. That's a picture of it. Notice how folded in it is. Notice that it's undergone severe trauma. We had the metal tested. Okay, we had the metal tested. So I'm giving away the film here, but you're going to want to rent the film. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. You're going to want to rent it so you can see the whole thing. But we tested the metal in 2 different labs because we had 2 samples that Frank found. 2 samples. So Chuck Zukowski took one. He had it tested. Frank had his metal tested. It's an aluminum alloy from the 7000 series, okay? Used in aircraft material. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, where they get the idea.
But it's not a direct match. Yeah, it's not an exact match, first of all. Second of all, that material wasn't invented until 1953. So why is it buried 6 to 8 inches in the ground at Roswell? The metallurgist who looked at the material said, whatever this was, whatever it came from, it underwent something very explosive, was subjected to high degrees of heat, that type of stuff. So, I mean, this is like real journalism. It's like real investigative journalism. We're out in the field talking to witnesses. We got in Hangar 84.
That was a crazy story. Right place, right time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. So, your folks, really, I mean, oh, LA, all you're trying to do is sell some DVDs. That's right. And you're a fool if you don't rent these because this blows. You want to know what's going on? This is what's going on. Because Roswell started the entire cover-up, which lasted until 2017, when on Tucker Carlson show, Commander David Fravor appeared and said that he saw the tic-tac-shaped UFO, right? He saw the tic-tac-shaped UFO, and it was not from this world. He looks right at the camera. Whatever it was not from this world. So, I mean, our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air. That's the dragon. That's Satan. And to herald the return of the King Jesus. And that's what we try to do. And that's what all these films do. There's a clip that we found on YouTube. I had seen it many times before. A woman that was raised in Finland came up to me at the Orlando conference 2 weekends ago. All right. And when was the Orlando conference? I'm trying to think. What's today's date? It's like, right, where am I? It's just like next Thursday we're on another plane. So it's like, But yeah, at the Orlando conference, this week, I mean, last weekend we were at the Orlando conference. She came up to me and she said, LA, I've seen this clip that you showed before. When I was a little girl in Finland, they had this in a movie, but it was much clearer than what you showed. And I said, yeah, this is probably 4th or 5th generation. My business partner, Gil Zimmerman, worked 30 years at DreamWorks and Disney combined, back and forth, okay? He knows film. And we are co-directing and co-producing these films now together. We're partners. And so this clip shows it's black and white. Something's on a stretcher. There's about 10, 15 people milling around, all in uniform. It's very confusing. Obviously something is up here that people have never seen. So there's like an ambulance, there's a stretcher, there's a body on the stretcher, and it's one of the grays. It's one from the crash site.
My name's Nick. I'm the owner of Kevlar Joe's, and I'm the roaster. I'm an Air Force Security Forces veteran, a dad to 3 wild boys, and a husband to my wife, Crystal, and a coffee enthusiast. From a family in a small town in Missouri, we started with the simple idea of crafting a perfectly bold cup of coffee. Inspired by wellness and countless pots of stale coffee while deployed, we wanted to craft a bold, clean, and smooth coffee. So we did, and we realized we wanted to share this coffee with our friends. Lord knows we could all use a good cup of coffee right about now. From the farm to your coffee cup, there's nothing like a good, well-crafted, and bold cup of coffee. No matter what time of the day, it's there to pick you up, motivate you, and relax you. We hope you enjoy our coffee. Be bold, be humble, be Kevlar. And you can find Kevlar Joe's Coffee Company anytime you want at www.kevlarjoe.com. Enjoy.
And it might be still alive. We don't know. I can't tell. We actually slow the film down because we can do that. We're on Final Cut Pro. And we show all this in the film. And then we stop. You know, the camera guy's trying to get a shot. People are coming in front of him. I mean, it's pandemonium. And Gil said this to me. He said, if this is a hoax, why do it? You know, and it would cost a lot of money to create a hoax like this. And it would, because of all the extras, all the, I mean, it's just, you just don't, you know, if it's 1, 2 guys, yeah, you can do it. There's 10, 15, 20 people around, you know, period vehicles, stretchers. I mean, the aliens there. I mean, you got to do this whole deal. You're looking at a big budget to do it. Could it be done? Well, of course. But why? Why do it? And then why did this woman see this, you know, decades ago, like 40 years ago, maybe even before that? I don't know how old she was. I would say she was in her, maybe her late 50s, early 60s. So what, 40 years ago, 45 years ago? In Finland, she sees this thing? Is it the same one? I don't know. There's no way to vet that, but I have to take her word for it. So, I mean, all that's incredibly interesting. There was a man that came up to me at the conference that we were at in Texas, Lubbock, Texas. And I just want to thank our host there, Dan Cressman. It was really a great conference, and Dan was such a gracious host along with his wife. And, you know, there weren't that many people there, but it doesn't matter. Those people got the full, you know, the full deal.
Yeah. Was that the Great Deception Conference?
It was, I think so. It was in Lubbock, Texas, this year. In January.
I seen the picture that they used, and that was the picture, the artwork that I created for that episode, the first one we did with you on the Dig Bible podcast. I was like, that's awesome.
There you go.
That's awesome. I was flattered.
Yeah, there you go. So, there was a man that approached me and had a story about his grandmother at Roswell. So it's on film. It's on my YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli, and you can watch that if you go there, L.A. Marzulli on YouTube. And he's his grandmother's about a month away from dying. She worked at Roswell most of her life, if not all of her life, okay, and worked at the Roswell base. And they're driving around. She's in the car, obviously, she's in the front seat. And they're driving by Hangar 84. Hangar 84 is surrounded by a chain link fence. We got in there because I pressed the initiative. I went up to a guy smoking a cigarette at the chain link fence and said, hey, we're a small film crew from California. Can we get inside and film? Yeah, come around to the front and I'll call the head guy. So we go around to the front. It's all on film. So I go around to the front and Bull's on the phone. They hand me the phone and I'm going, hey, we just, you know, we're a small film crew. Can we just come in for 10 or 15 minutes? Yeah, I'll be down in 20 minutes. Bull comes there. He ushers us into a briefing room, long table, chairs all around it. And that's on film and we're talking. Then I go, can we go out in the hangar? Sure, come on, let's go. So he takes us into the hangar 84. And I'm sitting there. It's on film. My jaw's like this. I mean, I can't even believe I'm in there. I've seen it before in other documentaries. I get that.
Was it like the Indiana Jones movie with all the lines of crates of cool artifacts?
I mean, this is Hangar 84. There's a huge plane in it, and they're deconstructing the plane. Hangar 84. And cut back now to the man telling me about his grandmother. So they're driving right by Hangar 84 in Roswell. Hangar 84 is still in existence. Hasn't changed. There's been maintenance and upkeep, hasn't changed. And he goes to his grandmother. I guess at Hangar 84, that's where they kept the bodies, right? And he's expecting his grandmother just to laugh it off. She doesn't. She goes, yes, that's where they kept the bodies, but they wouldn't let us see them.
Boom.
And he's taken aback. He's waiting for, you're pulling my leg, aren't you? Grandmother goes, no, she's dead serious. This is where they kept the bodies and the wreckage. Walter G. Haught, and we reference him in the film also, was the communications officer at the Roswell, at the Roswell base and stuff. And he's not in here, but he writes a affidavit that's witnessed by several people, not to be opened until his death. It's essentially a deathbed confession. And he says very plainly that the craft and the bodies were stored at Hangar 84. He says it in his deathbed confession. In that affidavit, he states that the material, they were there. Ramey was there. Gemma Ramey was there. Hout was there. Other people were there. Jesse Marcel was there. They passed around the wreckage. There's another gentleman who we show in the film, ex-military, who basically said that he was told, this is above top secret. You're never to talk about it again. All these guys come out of the woodwork in a deathbed confession type deal. And same thing with this woman, the grandmother passed away a month later. So she has nothing to lose at this point. And we've heard it, Jim and Carolyn Reckon, Colonel Hill, telling us that, they flew Colonel Hill from Dallas Fort Worth into Roswell within 48 hours, and he tried to communicate with with one of the aliens who was still alive, one of the bodies. These are avatars. They don't eat. They're avatars. They're biological suits where the demons can inhabit. The problem here, Justin, there's so much material. There's 8 films. There's 8 films in the series. We have 45 minutes? I'm into 25 minutes of it. We can't possibly touch it all. I mean, Roswell exoneration is about an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes long. The debris field's in an hour. I mean, I can't, and there's so much information in these films, in the entire series. Number 1 in the series is UFO disclosure of a 70-year-old cover-up exposed. We sat down with Al Matthews, who's been an abductee from like 6 years old on until he gave his life to Jesus and the abduction stopped, because there's a name above all other names. Amen. And that name is Jesus. And then the second film is we sit down with 2 experts, Francisco Carrera and Preston Dennett. Dennett is an author. He's written numerous books on UFOs. He's a ufologist like myself. Francisco is also a ufologist like myself. We have different opinions. And I interviewed Francisco. He's the head of Exopolitics Portugal. So this is a guy that's like me. We're talking shop. And we go back and forth between Francisco and Dennett and myself, and I'm holding these guys' feet to the fire. That's the second film. The third film, Close Encounters. And we sit down with people that have had all sorts of encounters, from stuff far away, lights in the sky, to being partially abducted, levitated off the ground, and then boom, they cry out to the Lord and it stops, to having the ship come right over the house. I mean, like right over the house. It's all over the map. And that in itself is just, that film's mind-boggling. And then number 4, this is where Gil joins me. Number 4 is on abductions, and it's a very intense film, 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, okay? They've all been abducted numerous times. And sperm is taken from the men, ovum is taken from the women. The babies are taken from the women who are impregnated by them. This is Daniel 2, verse 43. Folks, go to Daniel. Go to your Bible. Open up your Bible. Look at Daniel chapter 2, verse 43. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. There it is.
It's Genesis
I mean,
6
there it is right there.
repackaged. Nothing new is under the sun.
Nothing new, nothing new. It's the same seed word that we get in Genesis 3:15. This is what it is. They are walking amongst us. And Karen, who is sort of the tent pole in the film, she was abducted since she was 6 years old. And she was impregnated by them 3 times, and they took the babies from her. And we get into when we number 7. I'll get into that in just a minute, or number 6 rather, and I'll get into that in just a second. How it ties back into the whole abduction phenomena. But Emil Jurek. Emil was implanted. We actually took out the implant. That's in Watchers. I think it's 8 or 9. I forget which.
Yeah, how can you
8.
deny that? That's physical evidence,
I mean, there it is. I mean, that's all on film. We're the only Christian team ever to do that. Not many people have ever done it at all. And we had that implant analyzed. I believe that these implants are the precursors of the mark of the beast. They're not the mark yet. They're not. They don't have it down yet, but they're getting really close to it. And I think they're the precursor to that implant because something's in the back of the hand or in the forehead. And that I believe with all my heart that these implants are it. This is what the mark of the beast is. Because whoever is doing it has spent an inordinate amount of time and energy to create these implants. And they're not they can be used as a tracking device, but there's so much more than that. And they're powered not by the circulatory system. They're powered by the nervous system.
Yeah, frequencies in the brain. Elon Musk, look at that stuff he's doing.
Well, there you go.
And so, who's going to be the bad guy? Say, no, you can't heal the lame and fix cataracts and mental, illness, all these things that it claims to fix. Who wants to be the bad guy and not give people the medical treatment they need?
Yeah, I know it's anyway. So that implant, when we looked at it under a scanning electron microscope, I mean, really, guys, let's say here's the implant. Around the implant were like little hairs coming up where the nerve endings would attach to the object. And it's just unbelievable. This is investigative journalism. This is like in the field, taking the implant out of somebody, And what amazes me with this corpus, there are now 28 films that we've created. 28 films. What are you guys waiting for? It's just, in some ways it's frustrating. Your audience could probably sense my frustration because we've done the deep dive. We've done the work so you don't have to. And all you got to do is just go click and you can stream it right after the show. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. 28 films. It'll all blow your mind. So 4 is on the abductions. 5 is on crop circles, which that in itself, we delve into this crop circle that appeared in Ohio in a field of standing corn 8 feet tall. You can't hoax that. You can't bend stalks 8 feet tall. And all the stalks are bent. They're not broken, they're bent. And they're woven together like this. It's unbelievable. Number 6 is the darkest film I've ever worked on. It's on cattle mutilations. And on my YouTube channel just recently, there was a mutilation, but it was of a lamb. Classic mutilation. All the blood is drained. Tissue is excised and taken from the jaw. The anus is completely cored out. The scavengers won't touch it. Coyotes won't get near it. Buzzards don't eat it. Flies didn't even get near it. The jaw completely stripped the flesh on one side. We're getting the skull and getting it over to a veterinarian, seeing what he looks like, what he thinks about it. The radiation was higher around the lamb than the background radiation, which shouldn't have been. There are lights in the sky that people have seen on this ranch. It's in West Texas. So, the cattle mutilation has been going on forever. People don't want to talk about it. Tucker Carlson did something on it, but we're in the field. We went to Rancher Miller in Colorado when we interviewed him. He lost 16 head of cattle in 20 years. And he was very taken aback by the whole phenomena. And then we linked the cattle mutilations and the genetic material and the blood back to the abduction phenomena. Because when a woman is taken, she's impregnated, and then she's pregnant. And then she's reabducted in the 3rd month, the baby is taken. the fetus, the entity, the hybrid that was growing inside her womb, because it's partially human. But the other DNA part is fallen angel, in our opinion. They're modern day Nephilim. Jesus warns us to be like the days of Noah when he returns. What differentiates the days of Noah? The presence of the B'nai Elohim, the fallen angels, and the Nephilim. We're here. So, but that fetus, that hybrid being, needs a womb to mature in. You've taken it out of the female because you can't have that thing being born. That's not going to work. In a hospital, that's not going to work. So what people don't understand, in the mutilations, whether it's a lamb or bovine or pig, all those blood types can be used in human transfusions, blood transfusions. So the blood of a cow can be used in a blood transfusion with a human being. And that we cite that, we show the medical evidence and the whole deal. They are creating artificial wombs, Justin. That's what they're doing. And in Ohio, I talked about that.
That's just mind-blowing.
There was one woman about 5 rows back. When I said that, she just broke out in tears. She just started weeping because it's the darkest film I've ever done. I mean, there's no release. There's no happy moment. There's no reconciliation. It's like, a trip to Auschwitz. What do you take away from it? You don't have a picnic at Auschwitz. It doesn't work that way. You go there, it's sober. There's no happy ending. There's no happy moment. It's the gates of hell, and you're standing in Auschwitz. That's what this is. That's why we call it, calling card of darkness, because that's exactly what it is. And frankly, 44 years ago when I became a Christian, if you had told me I would be doing this, I would have run out of the room screaming. I didn't sign up for this, Justin. I didn't. I don't go looking for stuff. I'm not out there every night looking for UFOs. I don't do that. I'm not interested in anything like that. I'm not. I cover it. I film it. The Lord leads our steps. But if you had told me 44 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. It is there's no happy ending. There's no release. There's no, yay. You walk away from watching that film. And I tell people, get prayed up before you watch this. And if you're a faint of heart or you got trouble with something, don't even watch it. I tell people, don't watch it.
Yeah. And not only that, just the ostracization of it all, too. Not only just the dark side of it, you going out and studying these things and talk about these things, and just the naysayers and how you're ostracized and called a loony bin. You're called a snake oil salesman, who purposefully goes out to take a beating every single day with a smile on their face. A lot of people just don't understand what it's like,
and they never will. I mean, I've been kicked out of churches for this. I was literally kicked out of my last church that I was a worship pastor. It was the best thing that ever happened. They trumped it up as insubordination, but I mean, that's another story. It really wasn't. It was, but when you've got a hierarchy in a church and you go up against the powers that be, oh, you're insubordinate. Am I really? How is that insubordination? When you allow someone else's book in the bookstore, which you've never read, the church bookstore, but you won't allow my book, and you've had it for 6 months and you can't read it and put my book in the bookstore. That was where we banged heads. And I was talking about UFOs and the coming great deception.
That's what it
was. The men's
was.
group loved it. But other people were going like, what's this guy doing in our church? And I was asked, I was fired. And, we've patched things up. The pastor was 14 years my junior, but I wrote him and I apologized. Probably, I don't know. I did that maybe 6-7 years ago, right before the fire. The Lord told me to write letters to everybody and ask their forgiveness. And at first I didn't want to do that. And then I did it anyway, because we're all brothers and we're all going to, they made some mistakes. I made some mistakes. There's no innocent parties here. Everybody's,
there never is, if we're honest.
Yeah. I mean, but that was it. And after that, the Lord opened up everything, and here we are. I mean, that's 2008, where we went completely full time into what we've been doing. And since then, there's 13 and a half books. There are 28 films. Very soon there'll be 30 films. I mean, there's a corpus of work here that deals with the coming great deception. Everything is from a biblical viewpoint. Everything. We don't, when we speculate, when I'm saying I'm speculating, I'll go, hey, this is conjecture on my part. I let you know that this is what I think is happening.
But it's in good company. It's always with scripture based and interpretation through scripture.
Always.
That's one thing I've always loved about your work, LA.
Yeah. And that's what we do. And what's interesting is, there were people that wouldn't give me the time of day. And now some of them are sitting in the front row of my presentations at the Prophecy Watchers Conference. They're in the front row because, we're in some ways, and I'm boasting, I get that, but I don't mean to boast, but I am boasting. In some ways, the Lord has made us the tip of the spear. And we are. I mean, I get that. It's a dangerous place because the enemy is always pounding, never lets up. He hates what we do because what are we doing? This is our mission statement: to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and to herald the return of the King Jesus. I think we're close. I really do. And the UFO phenomena, look, I'll leave, I've got a couple of more minutes here, but I'll leave you with this, Justin. In the halls of Congress, there was a whistleblower, David Grush, who puts his hand on the Bible, swears he's going to tell the whole truth. He's under oath. If he's telling a lie and they catch him in that, that's contempt. That's jail time. That's how that works. Now, there's ways of getting around that. Well, they can say, I thought I heard this, or I heard this. And if he's proven wrong, well, he's still okay because it was his truth. And that's how he's so compartmentalized. So he has an alibi no matter what. But David Grush is a whistleblower, and he's before Congress, and Representative Nancy Mace is there, and she's asking him questions. And one of the questions is, did they retrieve? You made a statement that our government has a secret retrieval program to retrieve crashed UFOs. He said, absolutely. That's, yeah, I already talked about that. That's what they are. Then Nancy Mace follows up with a question, and she says, did these, the pilots of the craft, were they human or non-human? Or she says, were there bodies in the wreckage? And he goes, yes, we discovered bodies in the wreckage. And she asked, were they human or non-human? And he goes, they were non-human biologics. So they were biologics in the craft that were non-human biologics. Now, this is no longer L.A. Marzulli waving his hands and warning of the coming great deception. This is David Grush saying it's already here. Then we have a representative, Paulina Luna, and she states on the record that Grush said that this was interdimensional. And that's my wheelhouse because that's what it is. These are entities coming from the second heaven. This is another dimension. These are the fallen angels. These are, Satan's kingdom. This is where it is. Because we know that the dragon, Satan, fights with Michael. Michael and his angels fight with the dragon and his angels, and the dragon is cast to earth. That is, that's a really nasty time. Woe to the inhabitants of earth, because the devil, Satan, your adversary, has been cast to earth, and he knows his time is short. So all this hails back to Genesis 3:15, where Jesus is in the garden with Adam and Eve and the dragon, Satan. And he looks at Satan, he says, your offspring, your seed, will be at war, at enmity, with the seed of the woman, with the offspring of the woman. The proto-evangelium, the one coming from the woman, will crush the dragon's head, you'll bruise his heel. That's the entire Bible. Justin, that's the gateway to the biblical narrative. Everything hinges around Genesis 3:15. If we don't get the exegesis of Genesis 3:15 correct, we have no idea what's going on. And we come up with foolish, unbelievably dumb ideas, in my opinion.
It's like any good story or movie. If you don't understand the beginning, you're not going to get the ending.
No, you're not. I mean, the son of perdition, the Antichrist, is the seed of the dragon, no doubt about it. It's Rosemary's baby. He's the offspring. He's the offspring of the dragon.
Well, they give everybody your website and your information and where they can find your stuff if they weren't paying attention or living under a rock the past few years.
Yeah. Well, look, all I could do is, I'm on podcasts all the time talking about this stuff. And I mean, even at the Orlando conference, I think we sold 30 sets of the Roswell. There's 1,000 people there. We sold 30. I mean, it's just like, in some ways it's incredibly frustrating, but that's not my job. I've done my job. I've created, here's the evidence, real investigative journalism. Here it is. If you guys don't want to listen to it, then, I can't make you do that. But there are 28 films and they're all standalone. There are 13 and a half books. Further evidence, amazing book. All these people come in with eyewitness reports of UFOs, of hybrids, all sorts of stuff. LAMarzulli.net, LAMarzulli.net. The streaming is streaming.LAMarzulli.net. YouTube, LA Marzulli. We're on social media. We're on TikTok, all this stuff. So, Justin, great to see you again. And I'll be back in Ohio this summer.
Oh, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. That's Dr. Judd's coming, Derek, and you. I mean, that's going to be a really good time. I look real forward to that one.
Good stuff. Hey, folks, L.A. Marzulli here. Till next time, torches high.